what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
All of us need to be reminded that the federal government did not create the states. The states created the federal government.
There's a suggestion that somebody knock off Obama. Well, both, which we could. Well, you know.
It's not about agenda. It's not about mobilizing people. It's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.
I certainly am aware of the sensitivity of the subject. But what happened today illustrates a tremendous example of mass media mind control. And it's basically like a Psy-Op, psychological operation, surrounding this bin Laden situation. Now, I'm not going to take too much time because I have some really good examples taken from direct sources through the BBC, CNN, MSNBC, and other sources that'll provide a clearer understanding of this Psy-Op that we're under. Now, Dr. Steve Pieczenik served as Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for Henry Kissinger, Cyrus Vance, and George Shultz and James Baker. He is a genius, basically, Harvard educated, MIT. At 20 he was enrolled in medical college. He is a doctor of psychology. In fact, he was the first psychiatrist ever to receive a PhD focusing on international relations, and is also affiliated in a healthcare capacity as a psychiatrist with the National Institute of Mental Health. During his career as a state's senior So he is, again, backing up what we're talking about here. He worked with the CIA. He worked with Osama bin Laden. He worked with the CIA in the late 70s and early 1980s, setting up Al-Qaeda.
Cabinets don't really sell things. The president himself has to reconnect with the people. Remember, President Clinton reconnected through Oklahoma, right? And the president right now seems removed. And it wasn't until that speech that he clicked with the American public. Obama needs a similar kind.
You think words will work for President Obama at this point?
No.
Okay,
he's got to get some results. But words will work, I think, if he finds that right moment.
We are under attack. Not by the Middle Eastern terrorists or the radical Islam or whatever you want to call it, or homegrown terrorism, or whatever they're fearing us into believing. We are under a psychological attack. It is a psychological warfare. And this is a perfect example. The bin Laden mass media psych-op.
What was it like to break bread and have the President of the United States eat your eggplant parmesan?
It was, you know, once in a lifetime thing, I guess, you know. It's pretty cool. He was a great guy, you know.
What did you say?
He just, he loved the shrimp, he loved the grill, the eggplant parmesan. He was really down-to-earth guy.
It took almost 10 years, but it just goes to show the resolve of this country and the resolve of the military, and honestly, Anderson, the resolve of the American people.
Reactions ranging from confused to bewildered, some people even finding it amusing that America's most wanted fugitive, the man behind the September 11th attacks in the United States, was here in their town of Abbottabad. Now, I'm actually here with an eyewitness by the name of Jahangir Khan. Jahangir, if you could just stand right here for me. Jahangir, in the early hours of the morning, you heard some explosions. Tell me what you saw.
Actually, I was almost awake, actually, 1 o'clock. I was talking to my friend in UK on online and Skype, and I hear the helicopter was moving. And I was talking to my wife, what's happening? And we were a little bit scary. We came out and I have seen the helicopter. I went top of my roof, and because it was totally dark, there was no lights, but I have seen them. It was, I think it was a Apache helicopter. So they was moving around 12 o'clock. Then they start firing a few minutes. Then they came again, a few minutes firing. Then around 1 o'clock, we went inside. We thought, I don't know what's happening. Then by 1 o'clock, we went inside. And then 1:15, we hear the explosion, like big noise. Then we scared and we came out we jumped outside from the house and we saw all the people was going up to then we went up. Then I hear the people was crying there somewhere, like, then we run there because my cousin is living there, right? It's 5 minutes walk if I run from my house to there. Then we run there, me and my brother and a few other people. We run there, but when we went there was all fire going on. It was nothing. And then army came over, they took over. We were there until 4 o'clock.
Okay, so you woke up in the morning and then you heard the news. It was an assault carried out by the United States in which they captured and killed Osama bin Laden. What did you think when you heard the news?
When I came back at 4 o'clock from there to my house, I opened the news and this says about Osama bin Laden. I was shocked. And to be honest, I'm living here all my life. And you know that if somebody new comes in your street, in your area, you always know. Like somebody is, you can feel them, you can see the movement. I haven't seen anything like that. I can't believe that.
You know, a lot of people in your neighborhood have said that they were suspicious about this house. Was there anything about this house that you found suspicious, that you found strange about?
To be honest, I always go in the evening, walk from my house to the same house where they said the Osama bin Laden. The next house is my other house, which I rented to my cousin friend. And every day in the evening we went there by walk with my wife for just walking. I never seen anything like that, and that's why I can't believe that. And to be honest, it's not true. Osama, maybe some other people, but Osama is not the bird who went to the inside, because this is restricted area. When we came out from outside to come here to, always army will say, oh, where's your ID card? So it's not believed.
All right. Thank you very much. An interesting reaction. That was Jahangir Khan, a local resident here, who said he walked by this house quite frequently and just really had no idea, or certainly would never conceive, that Osama bin Laden, the world's most wanted man, could be living right on his doorstep.
They were saying maybe you can live 5-6 years once you're in this position, but if you have this disease, even less. So then I went and pulled up old articles from even the mid-90s saying he had it then and that it was on record. You've seen a CIA file. So how can a guy that has something that kills you in 6 years, correct me if I'm wrong, how can he be alive 16 years later?
He can't. That's why I said on your show, even 9 years ago, that Dr. Dooley, one of the physicians of the CIA, went to the American hospital in Dubai. He was already dying under the Clinton administration. So you have Clinton implicated, who's another prevaricator and distorter. I mean, and that was used subsequently in 9/11 because they knew his life was limited. That was it. He was to die. So how do you best use a man's imminent death in a psychological warfare routine? Well, you make him the bad guy. So you make him the bad guy, and then you don't find him for 10 years. Now, that is so absurd in terms of credibility.
And by the way, sir, you didn't even know that CBS News had reported that the CIA did go to the American hospital, Le Figaro, the French. That's been confirmed.
No, I knew this way before.
No, I understand. And, well, no, you said it on the show years ago. It didn't come out until after, but they probably got it from you and then went and did research. But the issue here is that they know full well. Now, his family builds most of the military bases in the Middle East. They did the air conditioning for Mecca. They're one of the richest families in Saudi Arabia.
It's still working.
I mean, exactly. His kids, are all going to Oxford and the rest of it. Now his daughter, but we're not seeing her, pops up and says it's all true. This family, from my study, correct me if I'm wrong, goes back to British intelligence. They didn't just send bin Laden in to be the money man for the Mujahideen that you met while you were there running some of the military operations because he fell off an Apple truck. Now, my intel is they made the deal with him and his family at the time to let him play the part of the bad guy, and since then they've been given even bigger U.S. and British contracts as the payoff.
psychological warfare. And this is a perfect example, the bin Laden mass media psych-op, basically. It is clear that this is completely contrived and, again, slowly brought into place, and again having the double entendre. Looked at two ways. Oh, what a nice thing. He didn't give a speech. Fantastic, you know, he didn't turn it political. He spoke some words with the individual family members for a moment. But we didn't know what they said. Private moment with the president. Because he was probably fearful of what they might say.
Terror target cities here have been busy installing surveillance cameras, and now Washington, D.C. is upgrading their system.
In the classic 1984, George Orwell wrote, "Big Brother is watching you."
This, then, is a story of the future. It could be the story of our children if we fail to preserve their heritage of freedom.
He wasn't paranoid, just early. Some 20 years after 1984, there are 500,000 government surveillance cameras in Orwell's one-time home of London, the most monitored city in the world. Other cities are following suit. There are 3,000 in New York, 2,000 in Chicago, and in Washington, D.C., there are over 5,000 surveillance cameras trained on citizens, and more on the way.
The next station is Penn Station.
Don't assume it was left by accident. If you see something, say something.
Terrorism experts say a retaliation attack for Osama bin Laden's death is inevitable. Terrorists are expected to aim for more vulnerable soft targets like shopping malls, even museums. CBS 2's Hazel Sanchez reports.
They are places jam-packed with people, pedestrian malls, shopping centers, and stadiums.
Yeah, I feel safe, but of course, in the back of my head, I know that things can happen.
Counterterrorism expert Yuval Aviv says terrorists seeking revenge for Osama bin Laden's death will turn to attacks less dramatic than the destruction on September 11th, focusing instead on soft targets like hotels, places of worship, and mass transit hubs.
It's easier, less complicated for them to carry out. What they're going to achieve, if they're successful, is to kill as many people as possible.
Security consultant David Bohm says the future could include security checkpoints entering all soft targets, like your local department store. Bohm says even with a police presence, the areas are vulnerable.
The reason they're called soft is because it's so easily accessible to anyone. There has to be security checks for the safety of all people.
Added security is a turnoff for some New Yorkers.
There's a police presence, and they search someone with a backpack. Somebody who looks not really suspicious, but it's random. So I would go if that is the case. Not if everyone is being searched.
It's better to be safer than sorry.
Despite the challenges to secure high-volume soft targets like here in Times Square, security experts say one of the best lines of defense already exists and doesn't cost a thing.
We are millions and millions of eyes and ears. We need to assist each other and keep each other safe.
Freedom coming with an increasingly heavy price.
Although there was some initial involvement by the CIA in this program early on, and it was described to me by U.S. intelligence officials as a modern-day Phoenix program. That was during the Vietnam War. The CIA and U.S. military special forces cooperated against to assassinate Viet Cong leaders. That's how it started out, but how it ended up is something the CIA, Mr. Panetta, and others in the agency wanted no part of because it went far outside of targeting al-Qaeda leaders and may have operated in friendly allied countries and the United States itself.
Who planned the assassination attack on me are not Muslims. No Muslim can attack a woman. No Muslim can attack innocent people.
That I could be attacked by a gang from the Afghan warlord Baitullah Masood, or by Hamza bin Laden, the son of Osama bin Laden, or by the Pakistani Taliban in Islamabad, or by a group in Karachi. So I sent back a letter saying that while these groups may be used, I thought it was more important to go after the people who supported them, who organized them, who could possibly be the financiers or the organizers
The New
of
World
the
Order,
finance
the
for
banksters
those
that
groups,
killed
and I
her.
named 3 individuals who I thought were their sympathizers. Now I understand that I could be wrong and my suspicions could be misplaced, but these are the people that I suspect want to stop the restoration of democracy. They want to stop my return because they know in 1993, when Pakistan was on the brink of being declared a terrorist state, I stopped the rise of terrorism, and they know that I can do it again. So I feel that these are the forces that really want to stop not just me, but the democratic process and the will of the people from triumphing. And the will of the people from triumphing.
And in terms of these 3 people that you mentioned, were they members of or associated with the government?
Yes, well, one of them is a very key figure in security. He's a former military officer. He is someone that has had dealings with Jaish-e-Mohammed, one of the banned groups of Maulana Azhar, who was in an Indian jail for decapitating 3 British tourists and 3 American tourists. Now I know that having dealings with people does not necessarily mean direct evidence, but I also know that internal security...
They just fucking edited that! In terms of these 3 people that you mentioned, were they members of or associated with the government?
Yes, well, one of them is a very key figure in security. He's a former military officer. He is someone that has had dealings with Jaish-e-Mohammed, one of the banned groups with Maulana Azhar, who was in an Indian jail for decapitating 3 British tourists and 3 American tourists. And he also had dealings with Umar Sheikh, the man who murdered Osama bin Laden. Now I know that having dealings with people does not necessarily mean direct evidence, but I also know that internal security has totally collapsed in Pakistan, and that internal security cannot collapse without there being some blind eye, if not collusion, being turned to the rise of the militants and militancy. Not only are our tribal areas out of our control, but even the beautiful valley of Swat is now under takeover by Islamists. So I would like to see a Pak-led police inquiry assisted by Scotland Yard or the FBI come in, use their forensic and scientific explanation to find out not only the perpetrators, but the financiers and the organizers.
Shock and disbelief. Former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto was shot dead as she was getting into her car after addressing a rally of her party supporters.
Benazir Bhutto gave an interview with David Frost on the 2nd of November this year, actually about a month before she was assassinated. In the video, she claims that bin Laden was murdered several years ago. And what I'd like to know from you, there's a lot of speculation going about that she was assassinated because she revealed this little secret about bin Laden. Have you seen this video with David Frost and Benazir Bhutto? And what's your comment on that?
No, I haven't seen it. I will have to get it because I haven't heard this before. I think that there obviously needs to be an investigation about how and why, how the assassination took place. But I have not, in fact, seen that. I know that she was in touch with some Americans saying that she was afraid ultimately that, and if she were assassinated, she said that she blamed the government. I find appalling that President Musharraf is blaming her for getting assassinated by saying that she shouldn't have been out there. She was trying to pursue a democratic path towards an election, but I do not know about this video.
We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.